Hey garden friends, welcome on back to Flower Patch. We are going to go through some of the successes that I've had in my garden this year, and then I'll share some of the failures, and we'll figure out what we can learn from them. Now when I say failures, I mean things that didn't work out the way I wanted them to. I don't view them as something negative. I view them as an opportunity to learn and or realize that everything doesn't work the same every year. And I wanted to encourage you not to give up if you have some things that don't work right. You don't have a black thumb, you don't have a brown thumb. It just happens. Okay, so one of the successes that this was a trial for me. I'd never done it before, and it is with my little hydroponic, and I'll get you a close-up shot of it, little propagation tank, I guess you would call it, but that's just a little bin, and how it's working for me. Now these are some roses that I put in there a few weeks back, and look, you can see these has little nubs and it's just starting a root. I'm hoping it's focusing for you. And then this one does have a root, so I'm going to pot these up soon and see how that works. I'll take you along on that when I pot these up. I'm going to gently put them back in here so I don't break them. But I have several of my rose cuttings that are doing that. It's getting the nubs, which are pre-roots really. And then I have a few other things in there I'm testing out. I even have some limelight hydrangeas. Now limelight hydrangeas are no longer under patent, so I'm not breaking any rules there. Alrighty then, this is out here to repot, and I will do that when I come back in here. So anyways, let's get rolling and go and check out some of the things that worked for me this year. So right here, my tub, my summer planter with the lobelia and heliopsis. This is, I can't remember, this was a Monrovia selection. It's just now going over, meaning it's done pretty much for the season. It would continue if we were going to continue having warm weather. But yeah, it's just going to be sparse for now. And I may just go ahead and take it out because I would like to put something different in this tub for fall, for some fall color. And since this isn't going to be doing a whole lot from now on, I may just swap it out. I may put it in the ground to let it continue as it wants to. And the lobelia right now is doing great. The first freeze, that will go over too. So I may leave the lobelia, pull out the main plant, and go from there. I could even plant mums. I love mums. I know people think they're overused for fall decor. I love them. I don't care what people think. I just enjoy them. So that could be an option. I'll pick something that would go well with the blue. And if you watched my use color in your garden, you'll know why I say that. All right. And it's why I picked yellow to go with the blue. Another thing. All right. That is one thing that was a success for me because it bloomed and bloomed. And if you watched my garden journal, or I should say my garden tours, I share this throughout the summer and how it performed for me. So that was a success. And that was, and I consider it a success because not only did they grow well, but the color combination really did the trick that I wanted it to do. Look at these dahlias. Aren't they amazing? These are the ones that last year I did a trial. I potted them up, dug them up, potted them into containers, and overwintered them in the pots in my greenhouse. Now here, zone 8B, they are supposed to survive winter. I have not been successful, out in the garden, planted in the garden beds. You just mulch well, etc. But that didn't work for me so I just tried it this way. So it stays warm enough here, usually in the winter, that I can do that with dahlia tubers. And it's done beautifully. I have also, I think I even have a video on it, and I'll link to it, how I dig them up and store them in the basement. That has worked too, but this was so easy. And because of my gophers. I planted these inside of the pots. They are still in the pots, sink down in the soil. I'm sure the roots have gone through the holes in the bottom of the pots, but yeah, just look how gorgeous. I think that is 2 or 3 dahlia tubers there, and look how lush they are. Now, I have been thinking about doing something. If I do this again next year, if none of these have gall, and I have a video on what dahlia gall is and why you have to throw away the tubers, then I will do this again next year. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to move over here to pair with it so that it will just really have a striking appearance. Do you see this Verbena bonariensis? This lavender purple will be so gorgeous with the orange of those dahlias. Those dahlias, I think, are American Dream or American something. I can't remember the name offhand, but this, I don't know if it's one or a few plants, would be perfect to transplant over there back by the fence. I do have to support this, so I could tie it up to the fence and it could bloom behind those dahlias and just be gorgeous. And this loves the sandyish soil that I have over there. Now, I just let this go. This came up from seed on its own. I didn't plant it here. But for the pathway here, it kind of blocks the view of my firefighter rose. And it's just full of blooms. This firefighter rose has done gorgeous this year. It is inside of a pot sunk into the ground. That was to help protect it from the gophers. And I have never here had much success with hybrid tea roses because of my climate conditions. Shrub roses, other roses I've have had success with, but not hybrid teas. And this one is just thriving here. So I wanted to give it more attention, and I wanted this. That's why I'm moving this, because this kind of detracts from this. I wanted something lower growing. And so that's why I'm going to go ahead and move this, and I know exactly, like I said, where I'm going to put it and why. So that was a success, or will be a success next year, because this grows very, very easy. This one is vanity. It was supposed to be shorter. It was supposed to only get 3 feet tall. Now I'm 5'5", and you can see how tall it really is. So I guess that's a failure, but I would say don't always rely on what a seed packet tells you. Now, I contacted about another plant, a grower, and this plant, and it was one of my hardy geraniums, a tiny monster, was supposed to only grow and mound like maybe 2 feet, and mine swamped all of the roses I had. I wanted it underneath the roses, and I wrote the company. I'm like, come on, this is not staying short. And then she said, oh yeah, that always grows short. So I sent her pictures of what was going on, and all she could say was it really likes it there. Yeah, it was growing way taller than what it purported to be. Now, one of the reasons could be that by the end of the season, my plants here in my garden are struggling to get sunshine because the sun starts going behind the tall evergreens that surround my property. So that could be why they're stretching for the sun. And that does create challenges of its own. But once you get used to it and you kind of work with it, you just can have what you want. It's just they won't be shorter. So I have tried to get a hold of the Verbena bonariensis lollipop, which is supposed to remain a lot shorter. And I think that was supposed to be like a foot, 18 inches. So maybe it wouldn't get any higher than 3 feet for me. So look at this. Let me come around here, show you how tall it is. Look at this. This is my castor bean plant. Don't you love it? Yes, I know castor beans themselves are poisonous if eaten. I'm not planning on eating it or anything else with it. I will save them to plant next year. But look at that. So gorgeous. I'm so pleased. I direct sowed this one in place. The ones I transplanted, I started in pots and transplanted, didn't do well. So I know this is something for me that likes to be direct sown. And right now there's some morning glories that are taking over on it. But yeah, love it. And it provides a great block to, usually you can see back to my neighbor's backyard. And so this just provides a great privacy fence, so to speak. And I don't know if you can see these little red flowers. little spiky things, but that's the seed pods. And yeah, right here, some seed pods. I need to collect them. Later on, I'll snip them into a bucket. And yeah, huge success. Now, I don't have pets. I have to worry about eating the seeds. And if I did, all I would do I would be cutting off the flower pods, the flower stalks, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it going to seed and harming anything. So yeah, huge win there. So I wanted to share this little plant here. This is a sun patient. Yeah, I had a friend give me a bunch, and then I found some on the bargain rack at Lowe's. This started out, it just struggled and struggled and struggled, and then it did beautiful for a couple weeks, and then it started doing this. I have no idea what's wrong with it. I've treated it for spider mites, which I've had an issue with this year, but nothing's working. So now the sun patients can be quite expensive, even on the bargain rack. So that is something I won't do again. This was the first year growing them. I have some up in the front. They did okay, but it just didn't throw me. So that is just something that's going to be a miss for me next year. And that was just a trial and error. I learned they just don't do well for me this time around. And, you know, I never say never. I was going to say, I never say never, because I could try them again maybe. Some years things just don't do well, and then others they will. And for example, my tomatoes this year did terrible. I hardly got, and they're just small. I didn't get that many for how many plants I planted. Many of them didn't get ripe, or they had very sparse fruit on the plant. It's just been very, very weird. And the ones that I planted in a spot that usually they just thrive great, I hardly got any leaves on the plant. So it's just, they've struggled this year. But I'm not the only one. Talking to friends and neighbors, they also had the same issue. So was it our weird weather this year? I don't know. We did have a heat wave, but usually tomatoes like the heat. So I didn't think that could possibly be it. But who knows? 1 year's failure doesn't mean that's going to be forever, because in the past I've had beautiful success growing tomatoes, and it just was one of those things. Next year I will try again, because I love homegrown tomatoes. So my next success. So down here, you see this pot? This is what I planted those Bobo hydrangeas in that were struggling. I had to get my leaves of my castor plant out of the way. Hopefully they'll stay back there. Yeah, I need to cut back these vines. Look at these morning glories have gone crazy, but look at how much better they're looking. Yes, they were really struggling. They'd put out some funky leaves. I thought they had witch's broom. Sorry if my hair's in the way, but look, they're recovering beautifully. Now I had these planted in my front entrance garden. They didn't do well there. Then I transplanted them back over where those dahlias are, and it didn't do well there. In fact, I thought they were dying. Well, they looked almost dead. And now look, they are just really recovering, and I have high hopes for them. So I have one more planted over there. I'm going to move it now that it's cooling down. In fact, it's very cool today. But so I'm going to get another large pot to put it in and just pamper them back to life, I hope. So that was a success, moving those in, putting them in a pot. I can control the soil, etc., and let it recover. So back here, you see, this is the Primrose Cottage Garden. I did the challenge of clearing this out, and I'm starting to lay down coffee grounds for the path. You can see slug trails across it. The coffee grounds are free, and then I'll put down a bark mulch. Now you can see all the seedlings. A lot of those are larkspurs and some other things. I don't know for sure what it is, but I'm going to let the larkspur come up. And I also have planted in other things that are in the blue family and white hollyhocks. I've planted the seeds along the back here of the wall. So white and blue is the theme back here. So far this is working really well. I have one Nepeta planted down here. So yeah, and this is an agapanthus I'm going to put back here too. Right now it's just in a pot in a container. But yeah, this is so far is working out just like I wanted. And these seeds have really germinated swiftly because, you know, this soil back here, this is where I had my compost bins. And so this is very rich soil. So everything is just going crazy. And I have some of my cuttings of salvia that I started from tip cuttings going back there too. So this total win here. And I'm thinking of like more bamboo across here for the privacy screen, because back there is my neighbor's, and that driveway right there is another neighbor's. So this would just give me a little privacy to have the bamboos growing. I always have them in pots, and I have a blog post on how to divide them, pot them up, so I have more, and they grow very vigorously, and I love the bamboo. Now this up here is my rose alley. And I have 3 arches, arbors, these rusted metal ones. I get them from local nurseries. There's a place in Amador that they're the ones that make them, but they only sell them to the nurseries. I have planted climbing roses or rambling roses. This is the Albertine that's gone so crazy. It's wanting to go way over the top. I need to prune them back for winter, and I will do that. They will flush back out beautifully in the spring. But my Jubilee celebration over here, my Eden rose. This is supposed to be pretty in pink Eden. Yeah, it's not. It's regular Eden, but I love the regular Eden so much I don't mind. But yeah, it's just been gorgeous that these roses are going to fill in even better. So next spring, and then the following spring will be even better. So it's going to be magnificent when these are all covered with roses. So I would say over the last couple of years putting this in, it has been a total win. So this here is my artist garden. Now when I put this in, I told you I wanted the oranges and the blues and the purples lean to the blues and a white. And the wedding candles verbascum was the white. And the verbascum didn't work. I had to pull out a bunch of the plants. These ones haven't gotten really big. The others I took out got so huge they were overwhelming everything else. But this has been a super big win. And that was because I used the complementary colors. I grew easy to grow plants that I knew would do well here. The zinnias for the orange. My Mystic Spires salvia that for me comes back every year. I've tried other ones like Rockin' the Blues, etc. They didn't come back for me. They should have in my zone, but they didn't do well. So the Verbena bonariensis, that's the vanity again, and that had come up by itself, and I let it stay because it was in the right color family. And then, I don't know if you can see this over here. I don't know how close I am, but this is a Black-Eyed Susan, and it's yellow. I didn't intend for it to come up here. It came up by itself. I decided to let it just do its thing. Down around the edges, I have the alyssum. Some of this came back from last year, which was a total win. It doesn't always, for me, come back, but maybe it's the variety. And then there was one 6-pack, which cost me about $6. So, yeah, the salvia was free. I took tip cuttings of that and started them, and that put in the zinnias. It was a packet of seed for maybe $3. The Verbena bonariensis came back from last year, so that was free. So a lot of this I didn't even pay for, so it was a very inexpensive, budget-friendly garden, and mixing those colors was a total win. The fail was the verbascum and failing to understand how big it got. Now this one, as I said, wasn't as big. I didn't plant this one. This was a seedling that came up. And I let it, as long as it didn't get too thuggish. But I will move this so that next year, it'll get much bigger. So the other thing I'm going to do here, I have some orange snapdragons. They should overwinter. And then that would be an earlier orange color in here because the zinnias are much later blooming. And I want an earlier color. I do have the Meadowland Sage or the Friedland, I can't remember the name of it. I think I have the tag in the greenhouse, but it stays shorter than the Mystic Spires and it blooms earlier. And I have 3 or 4 of them over there. I will divide them, move them around. They bloom the same time as the snapdragons would, so I'll have that earlier color. I do have some tulips. Now, tulips are a hit and miss for me in my garden. I know that. I don't always want to spend money on them, but it was like 50 tulips for $12 at Costco, $12 or $14. And I thought, okay, I'll try it again. I could put the tulips in here and try. Now, what I say I don't do well with them is because we get those late snows, and they'll be blooming and they will be smashed to the ground and under the snow, and I won't get to really enjoy them. So that's why I don't spend a lot of money for tulips. So that's my ideas for this. As for white, the alyssum doesn't bloom till later. I don't know what I would do for white in here, but with the purple and the orange, the blue and the orange, I think I don't really need a lot of white that would bloom early. Now, this Gomphrena is a mix of a win and a fail. I started these from seed. I started many more from seed. I think this is one plant. Is it one plant? Oh, maybe two. Yeah, look how beautiful it has done. It has bloomed and bloomed and bloomed. The fail was I didn't take care of my seedlings. If I would have taken care of those seedlings, I got so busy, they got set aside and I didn't get them out. If I would have gotten them out, I would have had a much bigger display. And if you're like me, a big mass of color is so gorgeous, and have it be so easy. It was a packet of seeds, and I'm the one that failed to get them out soon enough. So yeah, I even have some light pink ones here. There's also one, the strawberry something, and it's a little oranger, an orange red. That might go well over here in my artist's garden. Just looking down here to see if I have any gopher trails or evidence of gophers recently. I don't. I think I have been winning the battle against them. Never totally, because I know more will move in. But yeah, I've been baiting them with a carrot filled with bait, and it seems to be doing the trick. So we'll see how long that works. So I'd say this is a semi-fail. Yeah, I had planted zinnias, etc. in this area. And then back here on the upper wall, I planted petunias. As you can see, you can't really see the petunias that well. So let me move you around. So here are the petunias. Now, they would be so pretty if you could actually see them. I'm seeing they hadn't been bothered by budworm. It looks like I might have some in there now. Yeah, but how beautiful they are. These were on the bargain rack at Lowe's. Picked them up. I just have to remember to hit Lowe's early in the season to find them. I hadn't found them that often at Lowe's. And these, like I said, were on the bargain rack, and I have been enjoying them thoroughly. Now look at the difference. I'll show you. Let me lean you down a little bit. These ones back here are the ones I got at Lowe's, and these ones forward are the ones I grew from seed, and they're both the pink wave. Now, what's the difference? I have no idea. Maybe I didn't pinch mine back, which you can pinch them back and it makes them fuller. And but they were already in there and kind of hard to get to because of all these plants in front of it. You see all the zinnias and whatever. Now I know better than that. But why did I go ahead and put them in? Well, because there was a spot there and I wanted to fill it so that the weeds didn't keep growing in there. And I just figured I'd go with it. And I had assumed I would pick the zinnias, or as I cut the zinnias and the salvia for bouquets, it would leave the view. But yeah, that didn't work that way as I had desired, but that's okay. Next year I can grow the zinnias up here and the petunias down here, and it will be a great big win. So this was just a learning experience. So what about this? I trained this long cane along the fence. This is my Eden rose, and it just bloomed beautifully up here. I'm going to leave this cane. I'll cut all these laterals off. They will reflush next spring, and it will be just as gorgeous as it is here. Look at these. Isn't this gorgeous? Gorgeous, gorgeous. I love Eden rose. It is such a tough rose for me. It will even bloom in shadier conditions. You got to have at least 4 hours of sun, no matter what. But yeah, this has been a complete win, this idea. And I'll move you over really quick. I'll try not to make you ill. But over here, on this side, I've started to do a cane over here. So this one that I'm training along the fence will bloom next year. I keep training it like this. Now right here is my Rigucci clematis. That is just, this thing blooms so long. If you want a clematis that blooms long time, I love the bell-shaped flowers too. Rigucci is your ticket right there. Sorry to end so abruptly, but here is what's going on. These trees are coming down, so it's going to be too noisy to record.